Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. And if you'll all join me and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if I could have a roll call, please.
Trustee Bowser.
She's excused.
Trustee Rivard.
Here.
Trustee Gilmore.
She's excused.
Trustee Vanderhyde.
Here.
Treasurer Gilmore. Or I said Gilmore, sorry.
Yeah.
Secretary Slager. Here. And Vice President Schaffner.
Here.
And President Reed.
Here. Thank you. We have 2 excused absences tonight, but we do have a quorum, so we can continue on with our business. And the next item is the adoption of the agenda. And for those of you who might have only half of agenda, we have more being printed, so those will come out. So I'll entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Having none, Schaffner,
Yes.
Slager,
Yes.
Vanderhyde,
Yes.
Brevard,
Yes.
Reed, yes, the agenda is adopted. That brings us to gratitudes. And does anyone have a gratitude they'd like to share?
I'm grateful that the school year has started out well in our house anyway. They still claim to hate school, but they're getting up and going, so.
Give a good kudos out to all the staff and administration for the way that first week ran. It seemed to be very smooth. I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you.
You do words better than me.
Do I?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What Matt said.
I just appreciate the staff and administration as well. I was happy this morning to pull up to Cedar Trails and Mr. Smith was there to greet my first grader and I just think it's great that we have just a staff that's so eager to help parents and our students and be welcoming and just a friendly environment. So that's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just thankful for the work of the many hands that have made this work happen. The work of the transportation department to make sure that our students are arriving safely and getting home safely on a daily basis. And again, just the all hands on deck mentality that we've been embracing to make each day a success so far. And the support and cooperation of parents to be patient and give us grace as we work out the kinks in some of the systems that we're trying to implement.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to high school students. And we have with us guests, welcome all of our guests, but we'll be starting with the student council introduction.
Good afternoon. I'm Lauren Bamroll, the Executive Student Council President. And this month at the high school, we're preparing for Potter Cup, which is October 5th. And we're having sign-ups this week, and practices will be starting soon. Also, the class councils are planning their homecoming hallways, and they are playing them to the theme of the Wizard of Oz, which was chosen by the senior class council, who's also playing the homecoming hallway. Now we have a student council introduction video to show you guys.
Feeling good, like I should. Feeling circle all around the neighborhood.
who was here at 6:45 this morning. We thought the meeting was here at 6:45. I told him that we would recognize and celebrate him. He's playing soccer right now. So he did offer to help us move some things while we were in the midst of some busyness at 6:30. But we said, no, you should go be ready for school. So.
That is dedication right there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How was Wizard of Oz selected for the theme?
The senior council does it, it's their choice.
Is there a process that you used? I'm just curious how
Well,
was it
because-
Star Wars? Was that the other choice, or just what? How did it go on?
Honestly, it's a lot of Pinterest.
Okay.
Like finding enough ideas
Sure.
to like make
Uh-huh.
everything happen, but we sat down as a council, we just like listed all of our ideas and like all the pros and cons, what we could do with each of them, and we thought we could do the most with the most.
Great. Good choice. My favorite movie ever.
Sounds very fun.
It does.
Thank you for sharing.
I know, and thanks for coming this evening. We appreciate that. We do have one more high school student that we want to recognize, and for that, I will turn our attention over to Deputy Tom McCutcheon,
Hey, Chris.
our school resource
Can I
officer.
have Emily stand up, please? I don't want to say your last name because I say it wrong all the time. Anyway, Emily was nominated for the Michigan Crime Prevention Association Outstanding Youth Award. So I lied to her and told her she didn't win it, but she actually did. So, so this October, this letter tells her in October she gets to go to Mount Pleasant with a bunch of other people from around the state who are getting some awards, but she's the outstanding youth, so she will be getting that award and going to a dinner and enjoying her time. I'm hoping I can be there for that as well, so we'll see. But so there you go. Good job.
Just say one thing. I'm her mom, and I just, first of all, you're get it, 'cause I'm a crier. Thank you so much for doing all you could to recognize her throughout the school at all times, and what she puts into what you have shown her how to be. So thank you. Wow.
Emily, what's your interest in crime prevention?
I'm looking to go into the criminal justice field, and I've always really worked to try to, I guess, help people find their right path and move forward.
And what class are you in?
Like senior?
Yeah, are you senior?
Senior.
So have you decided where you're going to go to college next year?
I'm looking at Ferris and GVSU right now.
Good. Congratulations, Susan.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Well, after our next item is kind of anticlimactic after that. All right, we'll move on to our consent items. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to accept the consent items as presented.
Support.
And, oh, that's best. Okay. Schaffner,
Yes.
Slager,
Yes.
Vanderhyde.
Yes.
Brevard,
Yes.
Reed. Yes, consent items are approved as presented. And that brings us to discussion, and the first item up is Cedar Springs Public School Athletic Hall of Fame.
So at our August work session, Justin Herndon was here, and he shared with you a vision that had been developed a few years ago in regard to the adoption of an athletic hall of fame. In regard to board action, there's no board action required for us to move forward with such a recognition program. If we look at board policy 5451, under student recognition, it states that the Board of Education values excellence and wishes to inculcate in students the desire to do their best in all things. It shall be the policy of the board, therefore, to recognize outstanding accomplishments in the curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular areas. Furthermore, the board authorizes the superintendent to develop a plan for recognizing the recognition of outstanding student achievement based on well-defined, consistent criteria and standards. And so tonight, we have Caden Liggett, Harlow Hovarder, Desiree Wise, and Kaylee Andrews, who have some background and information in regard to the Hall of Fame, and they can give an overview and then respond to any questions that you may have in regard to the why behind the program.
Yeah, okay, so I'll start. Walking in and seeing that banner, the purpose, potential, pride, really ties into the Hall of Fame. So I'm gonna start with the purpose of the Hall of Fame. It's to honor obviously the outstanding achievements of, for right now, the athletic abilities of everyone who's come to our school. It has potential to stay in our school until it closes down, which hopefully never happens. And it has the potential to be a landmark and just something when you walk into, you can take pride in everything we've accomplished throughout all of our athletics.
I guess one of the biggest reasons we want to make the Hall of Fame is to not only acknowledge what we live for right now, but all the accomplishments that we've made in the past with just individuals and teams, and we're even looking at coaches that have worked or still work at Cedar Springs. And we want to really show that we still support them anywhere they are today, and that we care about how far they've come since they've left Cedar.
A little bit of a busybody, but I'm Kaylee. I'm a senior at Cedar Springs High School, and I've been part of ALC for 2 years. And this idea has been forming from 3 years from now. Mr. Harden, sorry, he has been coming up with the idea from 3 years ago, and I'm really excited to be able to be a part of like getting it going. As far as like things that we want to do for it, it's very prestigious. It's not just, you get your captains on there, your conference champions, it's athletes who are doing state champion things, teams. There's staff that can be involved in this. People have been in our school district for years, just applying everything to our athletes and students and coaches. They've been there for 10 years or more, stuff like that. I think it's really important for our school, because I know a lot of schools around us do something similar, and I think that it's a great way to get the community to be like, oh, hey, like, I went to class with that person, like, I know him, he's a great athlete, something like that. I think it's very important to have those values and that type of like pride in your school, and I think that we really need to implement that more in Cedar Springs. I'm just gonna hit some of the key points here. A timeline would be like the introduction this week is why we're here. Publication and process disseminated by December 1st, or by Red Flannel. So we have another idea to get it out to the community, to have it in the parade, flyers, anything like that, like coming soon, this is going to be a big thing in our school. As far as first round of induction, so people who want to get up there as soon as possible, we want to have that done by December 1st. So it's not like we're waiting a bunch of time, we want to get them up this winter and see what we can do with them. But we want to have special recognition of people in our community who just do a lot of things for us athletic-wise, and it has the potential to be, we could grab into an academic Hall of Fame. Those people who are getting 4.5s in our school who it's not enough to be the valedictorian. We want people to see them, things like that, and I'm really excited personally because I love athletics and I love our school and I love Cedar Springs High School, and I think this could change our culture and change the way people look at us and really be fun. So I'm excited.
I'm Harlow Hovarder. I'm also a senior at Cedar Springs, and we actually met with Judy Reed today from the Post to kind of get it out there. So hopefully in the next edition you guys will be able to read about this. But we just really want to get out there so everybody knows, like, we're going to have the nominations until December 1st,
And people, like anybody's gonna be able to fill out this form and nominate someone, and they'll have to have graduated at least 10 years ago. And if they're a coach who's being nominated, they'll have to have coached for at least 10 years and have been retired for at least 5 years. And like Haley said, we just want it to be like very prestigious, and it's not just for our student athletes, it's for our coaches and our boosters. Like, we want to recognize everybody who's like putting their all into the athletic program.
Any questions? My comment was, I don't have any questions, you answered them all, so that's great. I really appreciate the legacy piece of it and tying in the logo and the brand promise. That was really good coordination. Thank you for that.
So last time we met, we saw the nomination form. And we saw, it was quite extensive, it looked like, several pages. It was compared to some other nomination forms of some other schools that weren't quite as extensive. I wondered, what do you envision the public seeing when they go to where this Hall of Fame will be? And that's a good question too. Where would this be displayed, and what would the public see when they see that?
The Hall of Fame will be displayed in our main hallway, like as you're walking towards the gym. There's a huge wall right there that's just blank right now, so we want to put there. That way everyone who's going into the sporting event will see that as they're walking in. And it's right across from all the trophy cases. So now we're just kind of putting like faces to names and their trophies. Like, you're not just seeing what they got, you're seeing who accomplished it.
And it's, are you envisioning large poster-sized photographs or headshots, plaques? What kind of things? And I know you're not into all of it yet, but what's your vision?
We design it, and
Okay.
we just started after today. After we get approval, then we're gonna like look further into that. But
Okay.
it's all up to AIC.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sorry.
As far as funding goes, I know that's a big issue sometimes, but our boosters, our athletic boosters, have offered to pay $1,000 to get it started. And as far as continuing that, like, we're gonna have to come up with something, you know, fundraisers, things like that, just to keep it going, make sure it's in our community for as long as possible. But I think that's a very generous way of helping us out, and I think we can do a lot with it.
Thank you.
And it does, you know, if you recall back to our August work session or July work session, you know, one of our goals in our strategic plan and the flight plan for the engagement group that Lauren Bernwald helped contribute to as her work on June 25 with that strategic planning day is to showcase and celebrate the achievements of students and staff in an effort to raise community awareness and promote Red Hawk pride. And so really their work, the work of the Athletic Council, the Leadership Council really helps contribute and helps us achieve this goal. We're taking another step closer to achieving the goal.
Very cool. Thank you guys.
So thank you so
Thank
much.
you much. Okay, we'll move on to item B, financial update with Jeff Malik. Oh, if you, wait, where are you going?
You want to go. Go.
That's fine.
Just give me, we're going to get a picture of it.
They're like,
We'll go outside.
Get some homework done.
I got homework to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't take it personally.
Oh, I don't. Never. This is typical. Okay, so financial update in the packet. There's obviously the typical items that you see every meeting. And then the year-to-date budget update. Again, that just reflects 2 months of the fiscal year, July and August. And the second item really is the exciting one for me, and that's where we're at right now with our school bond loan fund refunding. So it's a really big week. Tomorrow's a big day. We are actually pricing the bonds in the market tomorrow. So this is one of my favorite things to do as a business official. I know it sounds really geeky, but we've done a lot of work up until this point. So tomorrow's the big day. So it's not just exciting because we're placing the bonds in the market, but I mean this is real work that the board's been doing. Scott and I have been working on that. Will save the taxpayers probably a minimum of $300,000, you know, on our debt levy over time. So
So this is really important work. In that work that we've done, I had Pam include in board book as one of those extra attachments is the preliminary official statement. So if you take a look at that, that's a 96-page document that really has the bond parameters, the terms that we're going to go out and price these bonds at. It has about 10 pages in an appendix of our demographic information with some financial pieces in there. There's our latest board approved budget amendment, adopted budget and budget amendment from last year. And then our most frequent most readily available financial statements, which are from fiscal year 2018. So that 96-page document is what investors have been looking at since the 4th. Okay, so for almost a week now. And then tomorrow, Scott and I will take a call at 8:30 in the morning. It's a pre-market call. They sent us a big packet of information. It has a lot of charts and graphs, and it's all market assessment of municipal bonds. Some of it pertains to us. And then 9:30 the markets will open. They'll place those open orders. And what's really cool this year, and I was talking to a couple board members before the meeting started, is that we have a system that's called Game Day now. It's like you're watching fantasy football live. But we can actually see the orders come in live. So there's nothing against me sharing my user ID information. So if any of you board members want to track those orders coming in, then I'd be happy to pass along this email to you so you can watch the orders come in the morning. So hopefully there's high demand at 11:30. Scott and I will take another call. And the broker will just talk about how they were received in the market. We'll talk about if there's any major investors that want to tweak the terms at all and see if that works in our debt structure. And then really at that point in time, that there will kind of be the verbal award. We'll close the orders. And then Scott on Wednesday will sign the written award. So, and that's called the bond purchase agreement. Then we just have all the attorney paperwork to get everything wrapped up, and then the final closing probably won't be for another 3 weeks. With that, we'll have Hilltop Security work on a nice press release once we know a final dollar amount for the savings, so we can push that out to the community. So we're really looking forward to that. And that concludes the financial update portion. Questions on that?
Yeah, so just to be clear, we sell bonds, we pay off old debt that's at a higher interest rate, correct? And our new interest rate is whatever the market determines tomorrow morning at 9:30.
Yeah, we'll get a true interest cost rate. These bonds, the majority of the $6 million is going to be 5, 6, and 7 bonds, principal and interest. To put it in perspective a little bit, Jeff, is when we priced out this refunding for an estimated savings of $300,000, the 7-year treasury was at 1.91% at that time. It's dropped to today, it closed at 1.57%. So I can't give you an amount that we're gonna save above that $300,000, but it will be in excess of that $300,000 unless something really crazy happens tomorrow morning. But that's kind of the fun part of the call tomorrow morning, is these investors are waking up and reading all the geopolitical things that happen overnight that are affecting rates, trade wars, all the big market news that you typically hear about. And then they'll project how that will affect the way the rates are trending tomorrow morning. Then we'll get an update on how they're received.
So all that savings is interest payment savings.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep, and the school bond loan fund right now is a little over 3%, 3.2 something percent, I believe. So there's quite a gap there. Now our true interest cost with cost of issuance and some other things will be above that treasury, but the treasury is kind of the benchmark that we track. Yeah.
Thank you. We move on to the engagement letter with Attorney John Teebles.
So this is up for discussion, as it was at the last board meeting. This is the contract that we're going, and this is the attorney that we're going to use to really help us protect the district in terms of entering into contracts with G&B as our A&E firm and Triangle as our construction management firm on our upcoming bond issue. Now, at the last board meeting, it was suggested, and I believe it was a really good suggestion, that we would talk to John and see maybe what a maximum approval amount would be. So I reached out to John. Nothing has changed on the engagement letter. He said a $5,000 threshold is probably what he anticipates. So I think we just let the minutes show tonight that the board's approving up to $5,000 in attorney fees. I will then go and create a purchase order in Munis, and then as invoices come in, Scott and I will sign off on those, and then Munis then will attach those invoices to that PO, so it won't allow us to enter in anything over 5,000 without us coming back to the board and getting approval for more. And the AIAs are currently being drafted by GMB and Triangle right now, so it's usually easier for John to get the drafts of those AIAs, and then he'll take a look at them, and then we'll tweak them from there. So that's kind of the process that we'll go through if the board approves this engagement letter.
Any questions? Thank you for adding in the piece from the discussion from last meeting. Alright. We move on to the MASB Delegate Assembly, Representative and Alternate voter. So November 8th, we'll be going to the Grand Traverse Resort, or some of us will be, whoever can attend. So that'll be our first job, is to decide who's going, and then who would we nominate in our next meeting to be the voter for the voting delegate. So that's what's before us today, nothing we have to decide tonight.
I am definitely going.
Thank you.
I am planning on attending as well.
Thank you.
I will most likely be attending as well, but I'm not registered yet.
All right, we have delegates.
I intend to attend.
Great. I've got a work conflict, so I won't be attending. So thank you. We'll firm it up next meeting. Don't all fight over who wants to vote. Just Matt's. Yeah, I know. Matt can take side.
No, this is not it.
That was good.
Heidi, what were the dates of that?
It is November 8th.
Okay.
Grand Traverse Resort. All right. Moving on to new curriculum resources for agricultural science class. Ms. Jen Haberly.
Hello. So you have in your packet some materials from our new biology and agricultural sciences teacher, and he is asking for an updated set of curriculum resources for his classes to be able to use. He went through all of the different indicators that are asked of him to look at for what would be suitable as a suitable resource. And one of the highlights about this particular materials request is that it offers industry certifications for students who go through the different modules that are offered online. It gives an updated set of resources for a program that's been using the same kind of pieced together materials for many, many years. So we wanted to give you a chance to look at this and ask any questions, and then hopefully consider approving it at our next board meeting.
I don't have any questions. I'm just interested how long we've been without any real, curriculum to guide us in that area. And I know you haven't been here long enough.
I haven't,
Do you have
nor
any
has
idea?
he. I asked him the same question, and his response was, I'm using things from all different people all across West Michigan and the Michigan area, but that the books and resources that they have are quite old. He didn't give me a date, and I would be afraid that he might say like they were 1987 when I was in high school, which would make me feel older. So.
Right, and in the past isn't really that important. We're going to move forward and do something
Yeah.
much better for our students. But thank you for bringing it to us. We need to do something. Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm just curious, was there one thing in particular with this curriculum that made it stand out over others?
Yeah, in looking at the resource online, it offers a pretty robust set of resources for him to use in class. both independently with students to be able to differentiate based on their interests and areas that they wish to explore a little bit more, but also as whole class. So it gave him quite a bit of flexibility in that regard.
So am I hearing that it also matches with the flight plan? Because I heard you use the word differentiate.
It does.
So students have some choice.
It does. I had that pulled up actually. Thank you for reminding me of that. It is very differentiated, and it also allows them these real world certifications, which would be helpful if they're planning to go into that industry.
So will they just get a certification, or is it something to add to a diploma? Not that I'm advocating for that, I'm just curious.
I don't
how
think
that
it's to
works.
add to a diploma. It would more be along a career technical path kind of a certification. So in that regard, maybe a resume builder.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to F, paving bid recommendation.
This, just for your notes, this one is a discussion and an action item, just because of the weather-dependent project. So we have two large chunks of asphalt that need some repaving that we put out for bid. Those two areas are both of the parking lots on the north side of the middle school. Those two parking lots. So we received only two bids. Affordable Blacktop came in at $96,000, A1 Asphalt at $149,000. We have used Affordable Blacktop quite a bit in the past, so it is going to be the recommendation of Ken and I that we choose Affordable Blacktop for the rest of our paving at the middle school.
Can we make sure that it's not paving during like conferences? I think last year, I think, they were paving during something where there was a whole bunch of people trying to park.
Yeah.
Do we have an idea of
He
the
knows.
time frame
Well,
that it
he's-
takes to put on the schedule?
He's gonna try and get it done in September.
Okay.
He wants to finish it up this month if at all possible, just because of the warmer temperatures.
I got stuck behind him once. Where am I supposed to go?
We bid out Blacktop considerably here this summer, right? Are these the same two companies who bid on most of the jobs that we've had for asphalt? I'm just surprised there were more interested parties.
What it was, Paul was the only one, affordable, who's done our other stuff here. So to get A1 to bid on it, and I think it's just with this time of year, to
Right.
try and accomplish it, that's what limited this down to two.
Okay.
Aff-
Thank you.
Affordable's out of where? Is it nearby?
Nearby, yeah, it's a local.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Item G, technology purchase for the high school. Jeff Malik.
This item is for discussion today, and then 2 weeks from now, on the 23rd, it will be on the agenda for discussion and action. So there are two quotes here. One is from C-High, and that quote is for 360 Chromebooks designated solely for the high school. That quote, again, is through the REMC consortium that we talked about at the last board meeting, so this has already been through the bid process. And then the second quote are 10 carts for those 360 Chromebooks. Keep in mind that each cart will hold and charge 36 Chromebooks. And that one, the bid is awarded to Precision Data out of Kentwood. So the total on that is $11,230. The grand total is $83,006.80. Okay, so that's well above the bid threshold that's coming to the board for discussion today. And this is separate than the ones that were approved at the last meeting. The discussion has been really to support that new cell phone use policy, that we need to make sure we're equipping students with technology to utilize in the classroom. So I don't know if Scott, if there's any other additional information to share.
So first, it was not a new policy.
Yeah,
just for
thank
you. Oh, sorry.
clarification.
Sorry about that.
So, but just to help support that cell phone free classroom, to help reduce some of those distractions that are a part of the students' regular routine. If we backfill with Chromebooks, that will help us enforce that new approach. The request, when we looked at what's the number, how many Chromebooks do we really need? The team at the high school was confident that 8 carts would get them to a place where each core teacher, 2 teachers would be able to share a cart. With the extra 2 carts coming in, it just provides us with a little bit more flexibility for those teachers and for those teams. And the Chromebooks come in bundles of 36, and so it gives us a little bit of flexibility because we only put 30 to 32 devices on a cart. So it actually enables us to create additional carts buying the bundles the way we do.
So how close does this put us to 1-for-1 in the high school?
Ron, do you have?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still about a couple hundred short, but we had that conversation, and to go to 1-to-1, there's a lot more things that have to get decided on how we want to proceed with that. I mean, we generally have some kind of an insurance policy that you develop, you have agreements, and giving those to the students and all. You've got future replacement of the devices and everything. And we feel, even though I have asked that in the last 3 budget cycles, that at least this gets us much closer to where we are able to have the technology usage that we need to have as we continue to grow our instructional practices using technology.
So we have how many students in the high school, and we'll have how many Chromebooks? Do we have those facts?
Yes.
So how many?
I think I can help with enrollment. So we, in Power School, I think have 1,114 students at the high school right now.
Well, the New Beginnings is about 1,135 total overall. And then the reason why I say yes to that is obviously I wasn't asked to come with those numbers tonight, but our technology department does have a listing of it. But I also know that there are some devices that they have to retire that's coming from that first purchase that you made a couple weeks ago. So with those numbers, and again, this is where I'm just answering yes with that, because I know there's also, the last numbers I saw had some teacher devices that are in there. So I'd hate to misquote. I'm saying we're about 200 short of having 1,135.
So we'll look back at Jeff. Can we get that information?
Yeah,
We can for sure for next week, or for our meeting in 2 weeks.
Rob is the one who has.
Rob Igler and Chris Stark have all that.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Rob.
Any other questions?
Well, I'd like to define, and maybe Scott, you can help with this. When I say 1-for-1, I'm not intending to give each student a Chromebook. I'm intending just to have one available for every student at any time.
Okay.
Correct.
So, and I apologize, that was my intent of 1-to-1 meetings, maybe I'm wrong.
And to do that, you would have to order more like 1,400 to 1,500 to have 1-to-1 available in every classroom. So see, that's not feasible either.
All right.
And not every classroom uses a device every hour, and so that's, if you go back to our flight plan and the operations, one of their focus areas was to provide that sustainable access to, but also use of value-added technology. And so that's, to Ron's point, we need to do more digging to make sure that we are aligning the need with the right device in the right quantities. But this definitely is a step forward for us. And we'll get some sharper numbers for you.
And I'm just a little concerned, we went and approved the purchase 2 weeks ago, and now we come back and we want more of the same. And whatever we need, let's define it now, and let's decide if we want to do that or not.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Right. So the purchase from 2 weeks ago was to help backfill some gaps. So we converted 2 computer labs into multiple classrooms. And so we were trying to backfill access to devices because of that physical change within the building. And then the other devices from that initial order were intended to help supplement carts with broken devices and just to fill, to complete the fleet that we had in place. So this purchase is a conservative approach to address identified needs short term. And then from there, we'll continue to work on a plan with Jen and with Jeff, working with principals throughout and teachers to make sure that we've got the right tools in the right amounts to make it accessible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So would it be possible for that to be a calendar item before school starts versus here we are now backfilling? I mean, is that?
Yes. For sure, but remember the timing of the flight plan was approved in July.
Yeah.
The goals came out in August, so we're just getting started. We're just taking flight.
And there were some requests in the budgets for this year too, of how many different departments had requested.
Ron and I, we actually touched base on that in the spring. One thing Ron and I talked about too was just the unknown of the enrollment for this year. We budgeted relatively flat for enrollment this year. And I guess it might not be a bad time to talk about preliminary numbers. But we're up 115 kids from last year in Power School. So from 3,500 to about 3,615-ish. Now I think if we trend towards last year, we lost about 40 kids out of Power School between the start of school and the fall count. But say we're up even 70 students, the foundation allowance is going to come in at probably at least $8,000 per student. So we're talking about $500,000 of more unrestricted revenue that we can start hitting some of these items that the flight plan has now identified that we want to move forward on. So that was part of our discussion in the spring when we looked at principal budgets and needs lists versus want lists as well.
No other questions? Thank you. Thank you, Ron, too. We'll move on to school bond loan refunding resolution.
Now, you already passed one of these resolutions, right? Because we're pricing the bonds tomorrow. So the big surprise is that there's another one, but this one has Troon letterhead on it. So our attorney, Ian Koffler, who came and talked about the campaign finance do's and don'ts, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, he switched from Miller Canfield to Troon. Yeah, so Ian obviously couldn't discuss any of that as it had been happening the last 6 months. As you know, Troon, 99% of their business is with schools. I think for Ian, this is a good move with Miller Canfield. He did a lot of big state issuances, local municipalities and schools. Troon, this allows him to just focus on schools. And really, I think it's a good path for him, it sounds like. Gives him a lot more potential career-wise. So Scott and I had a discussion. We wanted to stick with Ian, so the board really needs to really adopt this resolution with the same parameters as with Miller Canfield, just identifying Troon now as our bond counsel. So this needs to be adopted for us to price tomorrow morning. Yeah. And yeah, the parameters are the same. Troon just has a little different format.
Any questions? Pretty straightforward. Okay, we'll move on to item I, amend the application for final qualification of bonds for the school bond loan fund, refunding.
Okay, you already did this too. So again, this one is Exhibit C in that the new resolution packet. It's at the very end. The only thing that's changing here is that this will be adopted at today's board meeting, and it names Troon as bond counsel as opposed to Miller Canfield.
There's no concern with the last switching the night before and so on and so forth. We still are attorney in this event. That's all that really matters.
No, the great thing was that they didn't send out that 96-page POS to the investors until September 4th, and it was the week prior to that that Ian had officially went to Troon. So they were able to get everything out ahead of time. So knowing that the board will hopefully approve the resolution.
Okay, great.
Point. Anything else? Okay. That's the end of the discussion items, and that brings us to public comment. If there's anybody that would like their 3 minutes to address the board, now would be the time that you may share a thought or opinion with us. I don't have any sheets that anyone intends to talk. Does anyone would like their 3 minutes? All right. I don't see any takers. All right. We'll move on to our action items. And our first action item is engagement letter with Attorney Teeples Law with a $5,000 limit before they would come back to the board table. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Any further discussion? Having none, Schaffner?
Yes.
Slager?
Yes.
Vanderhyde?
Yes.
Brevard?
Yes.
Reed, yes. Motion carries. Action item B, paving bid recommended as presented and requested for affordable blacktop. I'll entertain a motion as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? Having none, Schaffner?
Yes.
Slager?
Yes.
Vanderhyde?
Yes.
Brevard?
Yes.
Reed, yes. Motion carries. Action item C, school bond loan refunding resolution as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Having none, Schaffner?
Yes.
Slager?
Yes.
Vanderhyde?
Yes.
Brevard?
Yes.
Reed? Yes. Motion carries.
Why isn't she answering?
I know. Where'd you go? So, and then action item D, amend the application for final qualification of bonds for the school bond loan fund refunding as presented. I'll
So
entertain.
moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Having none. Schaffner?
Yes.
Slager?
Yes.
Vanderhyde?
Yes.
Brevard?
Yes.
Reed, yes. Motion carried. Cool. Okay. That brings us to planning. Our next meeting is work session board meeting, September 23rd here, we hope, at 6:15. Note the change in time to allow for traffic patterns for our board members to get here. We're going to try 6:15. Do you have anything else about planning?
Other than Ken, if you want to give a highlight of what the construction or the architectural engineer shared today.
Basically that we're sound, we're structurally sound. It looks like the brickwork is just failing, pulling loose like I thought, but it's due to the lintels above the windows starting to give way, so we're going to have that. Matter of fact, I've already sent out a text for that, trying to get some company recommended by Triangle to come take a look at that and see what we can do.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Emergency averted.
Yes.
Yeah. But in light of what happened to our friends in Wyoming, it's better to be safe than sorry in matters like this.
So still planning on here.
Okay. All right. That's it for planning, and with that, we will adjourn.